Welcome to the Epoch Stories, a sleep channel where history drifts through the ages, guiding you into calm, reflective rest. Before the great names etched into the marble of history, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, before the bustling energy of the Athenian agora or the quiet shade of the Lyceum, there was only the sea and the stirring of an idea. We begin our quiet journey not in the heart of the city, but far to the east, across the gentle waters of the Aegean, where the Ionian colonies slept under the soft, unhurried light of the 6th century BC. Here, the first seeds of Greek philosophy were planted, not in the formal gardens we will later explore, but in the minds of merchants, astronomers, and quiet observers who dared to ask, not who caused the world, but what it fundamentally was. Imagine a soft, perpetual twilight settling over Miletus, around the year 600 BC. The air is heavy with the scent of salt and dry earth. In this nascent stillness, we find Thales, the first name whispered across the centuries. He sought the arche, the primary substance from which all things arise. While others attributed the world's creation to the tumultuous dramas of the gods on Mount Olympus, Thales stood on the shore, watched the endless tide, and concluded with a serene certainty: the arche is water. Everything begins as water, sustains itself through moisture, and returns to water. Close your eyes and feel the simplicity of this ancient deduction, the quiet gravity of the damp soil, the deep stillness of the well. The complexity of the universe was, for him, reducible to this single, flowing element. It is a profoundly soothing thought, a reminder that, beneath the veneer of daily chaos, there is a singular, continuous, and simple source. This initial impulse, this quiet turning away from myth toward the rational, marks the true beginning of the philosophical journey, a path that invites us to slow our minds and seek the single, unifying principle beneath the clamor of the many. As the centuries turned, and the olive trees in the Athenian groves grew taller, the inquiry shifted. In Ephesus, a figure known for his melancholy contemplation, Heraclitus, offered a counterpoint to Thales's stillness around the year 500 BC. Heraclitus introduced the concept of flux, the perpetual and inescapable change that governs all existence. Panta rei, everything flows. Imagine sitting by a silent river at night, the water constantly moving, yet the riverbank remaining steady. Heraclitus would whisper that you can never step into the same river twice, for both you and the river are ceaselessly changing. The very struggle between opposites, day and night, life and death, war and peace, is what creates the harmony of the cosmos. This notion that conflict is the engine of creation, yet that the underlying logos, the ordering principle of the universe, remains eternal, is deeply comforting. It suggests that even in moments of transition, the underlying structure of reality holds firm. His philosophy is the sound of the wind moving through the tall grass. Constant motion, yet a constant, predictable sound. This idea of eternal change, held within an eternal law, is a perfect philosophical lullaby, reconciling the restless spirit with the steady march of time. Across the Mediterranean, in Elia, another voice rose in defiance of this flux. Parmenides, a towering figure of rational thought flourishing around 480 BC, argued that change was an illusion. The senses, he claimed, are deceitful. True reality, which can only be grasped by reason, is the concept of being. Being is uncreated, indestructible, indivisible, and timeless. If something is, it cannot not be. Therefore, motion, void, and change are logically impossible. The world we see, a world of birth and decay, of movement from one place to another, is merely the world of seeming, the deceptive play of appearance. Parmenides's philosophy offers the ultimate solace of permanence. It is the silence of a deep, windowless chamber where only pure thought can exist. If Heraclitus provided the soothing motion of the river, Parmenides offers the bedrock, the deep, unmoving foundation beneath all things. His student, Zeno of Elea, reinforced this notion with paradoxes, demonstrating that if we follow the logic of motion to its conclusion, we find only infinite regression and impossibility, forcing the quiet mind to accept the supremacy of changeless being. These pre-Socratics, Thales, the water, Heraclitus, the fire and flux, Parmenides, the eternal stillness of being, laid the silent foundation for the philosophical garden. They were the first to clear the ground of mythology, turning their eyes not inward, but outward, seeking the cosmic material and the universal law. Their inquiries were conducted in the open air, under the watch of the stars, their thoughts drifting on the humid air of the early Greek morning. They established the critical, questioning tradition that would soon be inherited by Athens, the city that would give the tradition its most famous voice. The movement of thought from Miletus to Athens itself mirrors the slow, inevitable movement of the stars. The seeds of inquiry, sown by the Ionians, now take root in the soil of the great city, where the social and ethical questions will finally begin to eclipse the cosmological ones. The stage is set for the entrance of the sophists, who taught rhetoric and skeptical relativism, and their relentless, questioning foil. Before we step into the dusty streets of the Agora, feel the weight of this deep time, 2 centuries of solitary thought, preparing the world for the man who claimed to know nothing at all. The gentle rustling of the olive leaves in the quiet grove of the future academy signals the imminent arrival of Socrates, the great questioner, the man whose unwritten words would shape the very structure of Western consciousness. The transition is subtle, like the deepening of twilight into night. The world of matter is about to meet the world of mind. The physical quietude is about to be matched by an intellectual solemnity, a profound focus on the human soul and its journey. This slow, deliberate shift in focus, from the vastness of the cosmos to the inner landscape of the self, is what defines the next epoch of philosophical thought. As the Ionian inquiries into water, fire, and changeless being faded gently into memory, the center of gravity for contemplation shifted west to the vibrant, noisy heart of Athens. It is the late 5th century BC, the Golden Age, a time of architectural splendor and democratic ferment, but also a time ripe with political tension and intellectual arrogance. We leave the quiet solitude of the seaside philosophers and enter the bustling marketplace, the Agora, which, for our purposes, serves as Socrates' unwritten public garden. This space, filled with the loud bargaining of merchants and the rhetorical flourish of sophists, was the unlikely incubator for the most profound ethical revolution in Western thought. Socrates himself, born around 470 BC, was an anomaly. His outward appearance was utterly unassuming, almost jarringly so, contrasting sharply with the tailored elegance expected of Athenian gentlemen. Barefoot, often clad in the same simple cloak, he offered no formal teachings, charged no fees, and left behind no written word. His philosophy was embodied entirely in action, relentless, patient, and deeply unsettling inquiry. If the Ionian philosophers sought the material source of the world, physis, Socrates turned the entire tradition inward, demanding an examination of the human soul and the principles of ethical living, psyche. His quiet imperative became, "Know thyself." The human mind, not the cosmos, was now the ultimate frontier. Socrates' method, the elenchus or Socratic method, was a gentle yet devastating process of cross-examination. It began with Socratic irony, the claim of genuine ignorance. He would approach a statesman, a poet, or a craftsman who claimed to understand a concept like justice, piety, or courage, and simply ask, "What is it?" The ensuing dialogue was a slow, deliberate walk into a quiet intellectual labyrinth. As the conversation unfolded, and Socrates asked progressively deeper questions, the interlocutor's confident definitions would inevitably crumble under the weight of logical contradictions. The ultimate, soothing goal of this process was not victory, but aporia, a state of utter perplexity and quiet intellectual helplessness. It was the necessary first step towards true wisdom, encapsulated by the famous realization, "I know that I know nothing." This is a deeply calming notion, stripping away the anxiety of false certainty, allowing the mind to rest in the humility of genuine inquiry. For Socrates, the ultimate goal of life was the perfection of the soul. He held the radical belief that virtue is knowledge. No one, he argued, commits evil knowingly. Evil acts are merely the result of ignorance, a faulty understanding of what constitutes genuine human flourishing. If a person truly knew that justice, temperance, and piety were the only paths to inner happiness and health of the soul, they would naturally pursue them. The work of philosophy was therefore moral medicine, a diagnosis and cure for ignorance, making the soul whole. This doctrine provides immense comfort, as it relocates the source of all wrongdoing from malicious intent to curable error, suggesting that the path to a better self lies not in external reward or punishment, but in internal clarity. This quiet, persistent pursuit of truth, however, placed him in direct conflict with the political and religious currents of his time. He saw himself as a gadfly, a stinging insect sent by the gods to rouse the great, sluggish horse that was the Athenian state. His persistent questions annoyed the powerful and corrupted the young by urging them to question accepted authority. He fostered an atmosphere of radical independence of thought, demanding that his followers think for themselves rather than passively accepting public opinion. The anxiety of the Peloponnesian War and the instability that followed made the Athenians distrustful of any voice that challenged the establishment. The quiet stirring of the philosophical soul became a political threat. The inevitable solemnity arrived in 399 BC. Socrates was charged with impiety and corrupting the youth. During his trial, recounted in Plato's Apology, he refused to compromise his mission. He famously stated that the unexamined life is not worth living for a human being, arguing that he must continue his philosophical mission even if it meant death. His conviction was narrow, and his subsequent serene acceptance of the death sentence is perhaps the most enduring image of philosophical integrity. He drank the hemlock not in defiance, but in quiet adherence to the laws of the state, teaching one last lesson, that a good man, even when unjustly condemned, must maintain his moral integrity above all else. His final moments were spent in philosophical discourse with his students, calmly discussing the immortality of the soul. The passing of Socrates was not an ending, but the quiet, necessary prelude to the establishment of the formal philosophical gardens. The unwritten wisdom of the agora now required a permanent, sheltered home where his scattered ideas could be collected, formalized, and preserved. This task would fall to his most dedicated and profound student, marking the transition from the master of perpetual questioning to the architect of the ideal. His death fertilized the ground for the most famous philosophical school in history. The death of Socrates in 399 BC was the defining moment for his most brilliant student, Plato, c. 428 to 348 BC. Witnessing the execution of the justest man in Athens at the hands of its own democracy shattered Plato's early political ambitions. He realized that a city governed by opinion, fear, and rhetorical skill could never be truly just. The scattered seeds of Socratic questioning required shelter. They needed a formal, enduring sanctuary where the pursuit of truth could be protected from the volatile currents of public life. And so, around the year 387 BC, Plato founded the Academy, the first formal institution of higher learning in the Western world, the very first of our philosophical gardens. This famous image captures the quiet, profound break that would define Aristotle's career and reshape philosophy forever. He did not reject the concept of the form or the idea. He merely brought it down to earth, insisting that the essence of a thing is inseparable from the thing itself. The philosophical tension between the two thinkers rested on the question of location. For Plato, the form of the horse exists in the intelligible realm, separate from all physical horses. For Aristotle, the The form, or essence, of horse exists only within the physical horses of this world. The essence of the horse, what makes a horse, is embedded, immanent, and discoverable through careful observation of many individual horses. This redirection of the philosophical gaze from the transcendent to the empirical is immensely comforting to the grounded spirit. It means that the truth, the structure, and the meaning of existence are not hidden in some distant realm, but are here, now, waiting to be meticulously catalogued and understood. The world is, in its very structure, rational and knowable. Aristotle's quiet revolution was formalized through the science of logic, which he invented as a systematic tool for understanding reality. His seminal work on the subject, later collected as the Organon, laid out the rules of reasoning, most famously the syllogism. The syllogism is a simple, peaceful process of deduction. If A, all men are mortal, and B, Socrates is a man, then C, Socrates is mortal. This systematic framework allows the contemplative mind to proceed from accepted premises to certain conclusions, providing a quiet, unshakable confidence in the power of rational discourse. It is the steady heartbeat of reason itself, ensuring that intellectual exploration is not a chaotic wandering, but an orderly, predictable progression. During his time at the academy, Aristotle became a master collector, a meticulous observer. While Plato taught geometry, Aristotle was already developing the foundational concepts for biology, zoology, and meteorology. He sought to create a comprehensive system that could classify and explain every aspect of the natural world. He recognized that to understand the world, one must first categorize it, giving birth to his system of categories: substance, quantity, quality, relation, place, time, position, state, action, and passion, the 10 fundamental ways in which anything can be described or known. This work provides a deep intellectual serenity, assuring us that the infinite complexity of the universe can indeed be broken down into manageable, discernible parts. The Academy served as Aristotle's intellectual chrysalis. Though he would eventually leave upon Plato's death and establish his own school, the long, reflective years spent under the guidance of the idealist were essential. He learned precision, the value of systematic inquiry, and the necessity of seeking ultimate causes. His method, however, diverged into the path of teleology, the belief that everything in nature moves toward an inherent goal or purpose, telos. To understand a thing is to understand its end, its final cause. The essence of an acorn is to become an oak tree. The essence of a human is to achieve eudaimonia, or flourishing. This doctrine of purpose provides a profound structure to existence, turning the often chaotic sequence of life into a meaningful trajectory. We are not simply adrift, we are all moving toward an ultimate fulfillment dictated by our inherent nature. This quiet, purposeful momentum, derived from the rigorous observation of the natural world, is the grounding principle of Aristotelian thought. The student, now in his late 30s, was ready to establish his own sanctuary, a place where philosophy would leave the realm of pure mathematics and geometry and fully embrace the tangible, breathable, observable world. The quiet logic of the universe was about to be documented, catalogued, and celebrated in the shaded paths of the Lyceum. Around 335 BC, after a period serving as tutor to the young Alexander the Great, Aristotle returned to Athens and established his own philosophical sanctuary, the Lyceum. Located in a gymnasium complex east of the city, this garden offered a different, more practical kind of peace than Plato's contemplative academy. The Lyceum became famous for its shaded walkways, or peripatoi, which lent the school its common name, the Peripatetic School. Imagine joining the philosophers here for a gentle morning stroll. The setting is less about mystical transcendence and more about empirical immersion. As the sun streams through the plane trees, the quiet conversation is focused on classification, observation, and function. The students and the master are literally walking through the world they are attempting to understand. their philosophy intimately connected to the ground beneath their feet. This emphasis on movement, on observation in context, embodies Aristotle's core belief that the truth is found not by looking away from the world, but by looking deeply into it. The Lyceum was a garden of utility, a place where natural science and ethical practice grew side by side. Aristotle's quiet mastery of the world manifested in his doctrine of the four causes, a framework that provides unparalleled serenity to the mind seeking comprehensive understanding. To truly know a thing, he argued, one must answer four quiet questions. 1. The material cause, what is it made of? 2. The formal cause, what is its shape or essence? 3. The efficient cause, who or what made it? And 4. The final cause, tell us, what is its purpose or end goal? This systematic approach applies equally to a statue, a biological organism, or a human life, giving the observer a complete, four-dimensional perspective on existence. It assures the contemplative mind that nothing is truly random, and everything can be explained through methodical inquiry. This doctrine of telos flows directly into Aristotle's profound ethical framework, articulated most fully in the Nicomachean Ethics. The ultimate telos of human life, he declared, is not pleasure, honor, or wealth, but eudaimonia. This Greek term is often poorly translated as happiness. A more contemplative interpretation is human flourishing, or living well and acting well. Eudaimonia is not a fleeting state of emotion, but a continuous, lifelong activity of the soul in accordance with virtue, arete. It is the quiet, deep satisfaction that comes from fulfilling one's distinct, rational potential. To achieve this flourishing, Aristotle introduced the concept of the golden mean, or doctrine of the mean. He observed that virtue is almost always a mean, or middle ground, between two opposing vices, an excess and a deficiency. Courage, for example, is the perfect mean between the vice of cowardice, deficiency of spirit, and the vice of rashness, excess of spirit. Generosity is the mean between stinginess and prodigality. The path to eudaimonia is thus one of quiet, perpetual calibration, a slow, patient effort to find the balanced, rational point in every action and emotion. It requires practical wisdom, phronesis, the ability to discern the appropriate action in specific circumstances. This system is profoundly soothing because it places the ethical path within our rational control. It is a philosophy of habit, arguing that virtue is not innate, but acquired through consistent practice. We become just by performing just acts, temperate by performing temperate acts, much like a gardener cultivates a healthy harvest through consistent, mindful labor. The philosophical garden of the Lyceum suggests that a beautiful life is built not on grand, sudden gestures, but on the quiet, daily accumulation of measured, excellent habits. The constant, moderate movement of the peripatetic walk became the metaphor for the temperate, virtuous life itself. Aristotle's comprehensive system, his logic, his causes, his ethics, created the quiet intellectual framework that would govern Western thought for 2 millennia. He took Plato's transcendental architecture and rebuilt it on an empirical foundation, ensuring that philosophy remained grounded, systematic, and eternally applicable to the daily realities of human life. In the gentle shade of the Lyceum's paths, the deepest questions about purpose and meaning were answered with meticulous observation and rational balance. His school would continue long after his death in 322 BC, maintaining the tradition of systematic inquiry, but soon, the philosophical focus would shift again, moving from the pursuit of the ultimate truth to the more practical, immediate pursuit of tranquility and inner peace in a troubled world. As the 4th century BC drew to a close, a quiet anxiety settled over the Hellenic world. The great, independent city-states had fallen under the dominion of Alexander's successor kingdoms. The grand political systems proposed by Plato and Aristotle seemed distant and impractical. The focus of philosophy shifted profoundly, moving from the quest for absolute, cosmic truth and political perfection to the more immediate, urgent need for inner peace, a sanctuary for the individual soul in a turbulent, uncertain world. This new era of Hellenistic thought birthed a third, highly personal philosophical garden. In 307 BC, Epicurus, 341 to 270 BC, established his school in Athens, deliberately situating it outside the city walls. This school was famously known simply as the Garden, Kipos. Unlike the formal lecture halls of the Lyceum or the mathematical rigor of the Academy, the garden was a place of radical simplicity, communal living, and deliberate seclusion. It was open to all, men, women, slaves, and courtesans, a truly egalitarian community unified by the pursuit of peace. The atmosphere was one of profound, quiet contentment, far removed from the political dramas and social pressures of the city. The core telos of Epicureanism is ataraxia, the state of serene, unshakable tranquility, freedom from mental distress, and the absence of physical pain, aponia. This philosophy is often misunderstood as hedonism, yet Epicurus taught that the greatest pleasure is not found in excessive feasting or temporary excitement, but in the absence of trouble. True happiness is a quiet, steady state, like a calm sea beneath a clear sky. To achieve this deep quiet, Epicurus introduced a profound psychological discipline. He taught that most human suffering stems from two main sources: fear of the gods and fear of death. Against the fear of the gods, Epicurus offered a gentle, systematic cosmology rooted in atomism. Drawing from Democritus, he taught that the world is composed entirely of atoms and void. The gods, if they exist at all, are beings of pure happiness dwelling in the spaces between worlds, intermundia. They are perfectly unconcerned with human affairs. There is no divine judgment, no arbitrary punishment, and no need for elaborate ritual. This quiet assurance that the universe is governed by natural law and not by vengeful caprice is profoundly liberating. The great, terrifying mystery of the divine is replaced by the soothing predictability of physics. Against the fear of death, Epicurus offered the most famous philosophical solace: death is nothing to us. He argued that sensation and consciousness reside in the configuration of atoms in the body. When we die, these atoms simply disperse. Therefore, where death is, we are not, and where we are, death is not. The fear of death is irrational because the state of being dead is a state in which we are incapable of experiencing anything, including suffering. Why fear something that, by its very nature, precludes our experience of it? This quiet, rational dismissal of the greatest human fear allows the mind to turn its entire focus back toward the enjoyment of the present moment. Life in the garden was dedicated to the simple, moderate pleasures and, most importantly, friendship. Epicurus taught that the greatest external aid to ataraxia is a small, stable circle of loyal friends. The deep, quiet joy of shared conversation, mutual support, and simple meals provided the security that the chaotic public sphere could no longer offer. The philosophical life, he taught, is best lived laethbioses, live unknown, avoiding the stresses of politics, public fame, and high ambition. The Epicurean garden was thus an internal retreat made physical. It was a space dedicated to managing desires, cultivating deep contentment with little, and protecting the soul from the three sources of mental disturbance: fear, superstition, and ambition. Imagine this public portico, open to the dusty, noisy heart of the city, yet providing a deep, cool shade. Here, the philosophers were not removed from the struggles of daily life, but actively immersed in them. This location perfectly symbolizes the Stoic ideal. Peace is not found by changing the outside world, but by transforming one's inner response to it. The Stoa was a school of resilience, teaching that the path to a good life lay in recognizing the fundamental order of the cosmos and our proper, quiet place within it. The cornerstone of Stoicism is the belief in a rational, ordered cosmos or nature, governed by a divine, intelligent force, often called logos. Everything that happens, happens necessarily and rationally, fitting into a grand, predictable tapestry. The Stoic virtue lies in living in agreement with nature, not only the nature of the universe, but the rational nature inherent in ourselves. This acceptance of cosmic inevitability provides a quiet, unshakable bedrock for the soul. The anxiety of uncertainty is replaced by the serenity of assent, synkatathesis, to what simply is. This core belief leads to the famous Stoic principle, the absolute necessity of distinguishing between what is within our power and what is outside our power. Outside our power are externals, health, reputation, wealth, the actions of others, and the ultimate fate of the world. Within our power are only our judgments, our opinions, our desires, and our aversions. In short, our voluntary inner responses. The Stoic discipline is a quiet, continuous process of withdrawing our emotional investment from external things and focusing solely on the perfection of our inner will. This practice, taught later by figures like Epictetus, offers the ultimate freedom, rendering the soul invulnerable to the caprices of fortune. The moment we cease trying to control the uncontrollable, we find immediate and profound relief. For the Stoics, the ultimate and only good is virtue itself: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Virtue is considered sufficient for eudaimonia, flourishing. Unlike Aristotle, who saw virtue as the main component of happiness, the Stoics saw virtue as the only component. Everything else, health, wealth, or a pain-free life, is merely a preferred indifferent. While preferred, these things are not essential to a good life, and their loss cannot diminish a virtuous soul. This quiet radicalism assures the practitioner that true worth resides entirely within the self, independent of circumstance. A person may be unjustly imprisoned or impoverished, yet still achieve the highest form of human flourishing through the maintenance of inner excellence. The quiet practice of Stoicism involves several key exercises designed to cultivate endurance and clarity. Premeditation of evils, premeditatio malorum, is a practice where one calmly visualizes potential future misfortune, poverty, loss, or pain, not to dwell on the negative, but to remove its power to surprise or shock. This intellectual rehearsal builds emotional resilience. Another practice is the view from above, stepping back mentally to see one's life from a cosmic perspective, realizing the sheer insignificance of one's momentary troubles against the backdrop of eternity. These quiet disciplines foster a deep sense of humility and purpose, anchoring the individual firmly to the eternal logos. The Stoic porch, therefore, becomes a garden of inner fortification. It teaches that the external world may be chaotic, but the internal world can be an unassailable fortress of reason and control. This philosophy spread rapidly, eventually influencing Roman statesmen and emperors like Marcus Aurelius, proving its profound practical power to sustain the soul during times of immense responsibility and stress. It is a philosophy that promises not the avoidance of suffering, but the ability to meet it with a quiet, rational dignity. Amidst the structured certainty of the Stoics and the gentle retreat of the Epicureans, a third path to tranquility emerged in the Hellenistic age: skepticism. This philosophy, traceable to the figure of Pyrrho of Elis, c. 360 to 270 BC, offered perhaps the most profound stillness of all, the quiet of absolute intellectual non-commitment. Pyrrho, who traveled with Alexander the Great and encountered the wisdom of India, understood that the relentless human need for certainty is the ultimate source of anxiety. Skepticism does not offer a garden of knowledge. It offers a quiet, unadorned path of inquiry that leads to the suspension of belief. The skeptic's sanctuary is found not in a physical location, but in a mental state, epoche, the deliberate, quiet suspension of judgment. Pyrrho observed that for every philosophical assertion, whether by Plato, Aristotle, or Zeno, an equally strong counter-argument could be made. Since the evidence for opposing views is often perfectly balanced, or isosthenia, the rational response is not to choose one side and risk error, but to abstain from choosing entirely. Imagine the philosophical mind as a restless traveler, constantly running from one teacher to another, desperate for a map that guarantees safe passage. The skeptic simply stops, sits down by the side of the road, and refuses to move until the map is proven perfect, which, they conclude, will never happen. This quiet refusal to commit to any doctrine, be it the existence of forms, the rule of logos, or the ultimate nature of atoms, is tremendously liberating. The goal of this suspension is not paralysis, but the achievement of ataraxia, the same tranquility sought by Epicurus, but achieved by a different route. While Epicurus found peace by proving that certain fears were irrational, like the fear of death, the skeptic finds peace by realizing that no belief can be perfectly justified. Once the mind ceases to fight, debate, and agonize over ultimate truths it cannot know, it enters a state of deep, quiet rest. The skeptic focuses on the world of appearance, phenomena, rather than the world of ultimate reality, noumena. We can know how things appear to us. The honey tastes sweet, the fire feels hot, and we can live our lives guided by these appearances, by tradition, and by prudence. But we make no claims about the true, objective nature of sweetness or heat. This distinction allows the skeptic to live functionally in the world, eating, sleeping, and obeying laws, while maintaining an internal, quiet freedom from the dogmatic struggles of doctrine. This is the ultimate detachment, a peaceful realization that we can operate perfectly well without knowing the absolute why. Later skeptics formalized this approach, developing 10 tropes, modes, of argument designed to demonstrate the inadequacy of judgment. These tropes showed how perception is relative. It changes based on the observer, the time, the environment, and the object itself, how different cultures hold radically different beliefs, and how every assertion ultimately relies on another, unproven assertion. The continuous application of these modes gently guides the mind back to Epoch. The quiet power of skepticism lies in its therapeutic quality. It is a philosophy for the weary, for those exhausted by the endless debates of certainty. It offers a permanent truce in the war of ideas, replacing the stress of intellectual combat with the silence of impartial observation. The skeptic lives in a kind of perpetual twilight, where the clear light of absolute truth never fully dawns, but the unsettling darkness of total ignorance is also held at bay. In this gentle ambiguity, the mind is finally allowed to rest, realizing that the inability to achieve ultimate certainty does not preclude the ability to live a quiet, functional, and peaceful life. This practice of letting go of intellectual ambition is perhaps the deepest form of philosophical surrender, providing the ultimate stillness. The philosophical gardens of Athens, the Academy, the Lyceum, the Garden, and the Stoa, did not disappear. Rather, their core principles spread, evolving and merging with the practical, enduring spirit of the Roman Empire. By the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, the focus of philosophy had completed its quiet transformation. It was no longer about cosmology or the structure of the ideal state, but about how to live a good life under the weight of vast imperial responsibility or immense personal suffering. The philosophical tenets became a spiritual technology for personal resilience. This era is dominated by the voices of the late Stoics, figures who domesticated Zeno's complex physics and logic into a set of accessible, potent ethical disciplines. Imagine the Stoa's quiet, rational framework now applied not by Athenian citizens, but by a wealthy Roman senator, a freed slave, and an emperor. We first hear the measured, grave voice of Lucius Annaeus Seneca, c. 4 BC, AD 65. As a chief advisor and tutor to the Emperor Nero, Seneca understood the corrosive power of wealth, ambition, and political vulnerability. His writings, often in the form of letters, are quiet, urgent meditations on managing fear, anger, and grief. Seneca's unique contribution was to inject a profound sense of human weakness and empathy into the rigid Stoic doctrine. He taught the importance of gratitude and premeditation of evils, urging his readers to regularly practice self-sufficiency and to internalize the transient nature of all external possessions. For Seneca, philosophy was a perpetual refuge, a harbor from the storms of fortune. The pursuit of virtue became the only reliable investment in a world where power could be taken away by imperial whim. Next, the voice shifts to that of Epictetus, c. AD 50 to 135, a former slave who achieved freedom and taught philosophy from a position of profound, physical humility. His philosophy, recorded by his student Arian, is perhaps the purest articulation of the Stoic distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. The focus is relentlessly on prohairesis, our moral purpose, our faculty of choice. Epictetus offered a philosophy of absolute personal power. Even if one is chained and beaten, the mind remains free, capable of judging, assenting, and dissenting. His teaching provides the ultimate, quiet comfort. No external force can compel us to be unhappy or unvirtuous against our will. True freedom is found only in the quiet acceptance of necessity. His garden was the simplest possible, the inner space of one's own mind. Finally, we encounter the most solemn and powerful figure of this synthesis. Marcus Aurelius, AD 121 to 180, the philosopher-emperor, who wrote his meditations not for publication, but as a series of quiet, late-night self-admonishments while leading military campaigns on the Germanic frontier. The Meditations are the ultimate expression of the Stoic ideal applied to a life of unimaginable stress. Marcus Aurelius reminds himself constantly of the brevity of life, the inevitability of death, and the pettiness of human affairs when viewed against the backdrop of the eternal cosmos. His philosophy is the sound of a ruler speaking only to his own conscience, seeking to maintain justice, patience, and integrity amidst the chaos of empire. He absorbed the Platonic ideal of the philosopher king, the Aristotelian focus on duty, and the Stoic necessity of living in agreement with nature. This Roman synthesis confirmed the practical, therapeutic purpose of ancient philosophy. It taught that the inner garden must be vigilantly protected and cultivated, regardless of one's external circumstances. Whether on a dusty battlefield, in the luxurious but dangerous halls of power, or in the simple home of a former slave, the principles remain the same. Focus on what you control, accept what you cannot, and let virtue be your only good. As the Roman Empire slowly yielded to decline and the intellectual lights of the classical world began to dim, these Hellenistic philosophies provided a final, enduring refuge for the contemplative mind. The great gardens and porches would eventually close, but their wisdom had been transcribed, internalized, and woven permanently into the fabric of Western consciousness. The final transformation of this philosophical journey is about to take place. The quiet transition from the rational pursuit of truth to the contemplative, faith-based pursuit of the divine. The philosophical gardens that had flourished for centuries eventually yielded to the sands of time and the rising dominance of new forms of spiritual thought. The final, solemn milestone in this decline occurred in AD 529, when the Christian Emperor Justinian issued an edict closing the last remaining philosophical schools in Athens, often cited as the official end of the ancient philosophical era. The quiet dialogue of Plato's Academy, which had endured for over 9 centuries, was finally silenced. But the closing of the physical doors did not mean the end of the thought itself. The enduring quiet of Greek philosophy, the patient pursuit of knowledge, the ethical insistence on self-mastery, and the systematic structure of reason, had already been absorbed into the very intellectual fabric of the subsequent age. The greatest legacy of these gardens is their survival through transcription and internalization. The Socratic demand for rigorous self-examination, know thyself, and the relentless pursuit of ethical definition became foundational to early Christian moral thought, transforming the concept of confession and the disciplined life. The quiet, persistent questioning of the Athenian gadfly had become a permanent method of theological inquiry. The grand, transcendent architecture of Plato's theory of forms found a new, profound home in the doctrines of Christian theology. The eternal, perfect forms, truth, beauty, goodness, were reinterpreted as the attributes of a singular, perfect God. Platonism, particularly in its later form, Neoplatonism, became the primary bridge through which Greek rationality entered the medieval world, influencing figures from Augustine onward. The vision of the world as a fleeting shadow of a higher reality remained, merely shifting its ultimate source. The vast, empirical catalog and logical system of Aristotle's Lyceum were preserved and later reintroduced to Western Europe via Islamic and Byzantine scholars. When the Latin West rediscovered Aristotle in the 12th and 13th centuries, his logic, his physics, and his ethics provided the intellectual scaffolding for the development of scholasticism and the modern university. The quiet, systematic methodology of the peripatetic path became the backbone of scientific and rational inquiry, enduring in the structure of every argument and the classification of every biological species to this day. Finally, the Hellenistic paths to tranquility, the Epicurean withdrawal, the Stoic endurance, and the skeptic suspension of judgment, offered essential, practical wisdom for coping with the challenges of existence. Stoicism, in particular, became the philosophy of choice for statesmen, soldiers, and everyday people seeking emotional resilience. Its principles, focus on what you control, assent to nature, and prioritize virtue, have seen constant revival throughout history, persisting today as an essential therapeutic tool for navigating a chaotic world. The quiet, enduring message of all these gardens, whether dedicated to the ideal, the empirical, or the tranquil, is that the most important work occurs within the self. The philosophical journey is a disciplined, intentional cultivation of the inner life, transforming the mind from a chaotic public marketplace into a sheltered, productive space of reason and peace. These schools taught us that the world is knowable, life is purposeful, and tranquility is achievable, not through accident, but through the continuous, quiet practice of wisdom. The seeds sown by Thales in the Ionian dawn, pruned by Socrates in the Agora, and formalized by Plato and Aristotle, continue to yield their fruit in the contemplative hearts of all who seek to live a thoughtful, examined life. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.